thank you for doing this. First of all, thanks for coming on. Matt, like you're like a ghost online. So usually I research people and I'm like, okay, first job, you search like podcasts, then you search Spotify, then you search YouTube, then you search Instagram, whatever. I went down the list. LinkedIn is always my last port of call because I just don't like it. And that was the only place I could find anything on you. Your Instagram is like 3 posts, all pretty recent. Like I was like, who is this guy? Like, is he a robot? Did they invent him and just put him into a position? Is that deliberate? Are you like deliberately quiet online?
Yeah, do you know, it's been really interesting. I think I've always been the guy that's been quite happy to build brands and build businesses, but do it from behind the scenes. And obviously in all the companies I've been with, I always have someone, whether it's a founder or someone that is like a Dan, that again, and I think that I know my strengths, I know what I'm good at, I know I'm good at building businesses and helping them grow. And I've consciously, I suppose, look, because something happened in my career early on at Procter & Gamble, it gave me a very different view of social media. So I think I'm now, which is probably an unconscious competence now, but I'm trying to build up that profile. Started with LinkedIn, we'll do it with Instagram, but I suppose it's something I'm trying to get more natural at. But yeah, and I've always been probably the guy behind the scenes that people will say hopefully really good things about, but when I'm there, I just get on and do a good job. And you can get references from anyone I've worked with, and they'll all probably say the same, which is I left hopefully a company in a better state than when I came in.
Yeah, no, I believe
we haven't hired him to be an Instagram influencer. We've hired him to supercharge the business. So, and whilst I'm not famous exactly, maybe I can take that role on while Matt adds his speciality to the business.
Yeah, you're quite famous. I classify you as famous, especially like as famous as you can be in CrossFit.
It's those. Like, it's the cross. Well, not as famous as you can be. I'd say O'Keefe is on that level, isn't he?
Fair.
Middle ground.
I met Justin Berg at Strength and Depth, and I think this will resonate with you as we're talking about fame. But he goes, he said, "Oh, you're the biggest podcast in Europe," and I was like, and he goes, "Well, in CrossFit," and I was like, "That's definitely more accurate." And I feel like someone saying that you're famous is like, well, it's like with CrossFit, yes. Now we're getting, the smaller the field is, the more famous I am. Yeah. No, it's. We were just talking before we started that Dan is someone. So I actually saw you at Strength and Depth. What height are you, Dan?
What height am I?
Yeah.
6'1" and a bit.
Because you were standing, I didn't actually talk to you because I was like, is that him? And I wasn't 100% sure. And you were talking to someone else, but I was like, he's a lot taller than I thought he was. Or else you were standing with really short people. I don't know, but you looked really tall when I was walking past. And I classify myself as 6 foot.
A lot, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you, Matt, where did you become aware of, because you mentioned say Procter & Gamble there. Is that, am I wrong? Is that like pharmaceuticals or something, or like medical stuff?
So I work for Pentland, which is a company that do Speedo, they own JD Sports, and I did, I played rugby and did quite a few other sports, got injured, and then found my way about 6 years ago into the space of doing CrossFit.
Okay.
New Wave CrossFit out in Surrey. So got into that and really enjoyed it, and basically found strengths that I never thought I had, and actually was very defined. And so I was getting really bored of just going to the gym and being quite transient and being the guy who was trying to lift really heavy weights and getting really obscure shapes, but not really getting a all-round fitness. And I liked the fact I was actually building quite a good, I suppose, fitness in a number of different areas, and my body shape changed. I was really enjoying it. Then basically left and ended up doing work abroad, so didn't really have the time. And then bizarrely, you talk about 6 degrees of separation. I worked for a number of different private equity companies. I met a guy called Harry Markle who was working with our private equity company VGC, and then Dan and I started chatting, and he said, "Hey, look, this is my brand, here's what I want to do, this is my vision." And then from there we had probably a number of coffee chats, and then found that, look, we actually had the same vision for a great brand and a great business. And then post there, came in, helped behind the scenes. So again, I've been helping WIT out for about 6 months, Dan, prior to actually us converting, me becoming CEO and Dan still being founder, but moving towards chief brand officer role. So yeah, so again, exactly as you said earlier with me, I've just been doing stuff behind the scenes, working quietly on helping the business. And then it felt for the first time in my career, the right time to go towards being that person that is going to help the founder achieve the vision of the business, which is really, really clear and compelling. So it was one of those ones, and as you probably saw on LinkedIn, was like the best opportunity for me to combine my passion in a space I really love and in a sport that I really get, and therefore felt like I could add the most value in this role. And as I said, I've really enjoyed the last months and what we've done and what we're about to embark on with the upcoming fundraising.
Does it add pressure not being behind the scenes? Like, say in the other roles, if you weren't like as forward facing, like you're right up front here, whereas like in other ones, like you mentioned, you were kind of a bit more like, you know, you could have left your role and joined another company and people would be like, who is he? And, you know, it might need to be explained, oh, he's the guy that was with this company, did this. Whereas at WIT now, you are front and center. Does it like, is it hot under the spotlight? Like, is it a bit different?
I think I probably put a lot of pressure on myself to do a really good job in all the businesses and the brands I've worked in. Do I feel the pressure? I feel pressure more so because I want the business to get to where it needs to be. And I feel the pressure for, you know, leading any organization, large or small, you have that resting on your shoulders because you want people to feel excited and create a really great culture. And that also works in terms of giving people the time to train. And I think, you know, I've got to lead by example, and, you know, I need to have that work-life balance. I need to make sure that, again, we're developing the team. And as I said, I suppose I've always done that. So it probably felt the right time. And so probably my fear of moving into a different role in this organization was probably supported by Dan, felt that it didn't seem that big a step as I thought it may be.
If you look at, like, you know, WIT as a brand, I consider it like a CrossFit or functional fitness, I guess, like apparel housing company, I suppose, or like, you know, like a store, like online, like in person. And then there's also like the gym element and stuff. And when you look at both of your backgrounds, obviously you mentioned that you did rugby, and I know, Dan, you did running and athletics and stuff when you were younger. But I heard you on Khalipa's podcast, and similar to, I guess, Procter & Gamble moving from there to WIT, moving from a cleaning company to starting WIT is like probably as obscure a route you could take. I guess it's not the step that you'd see coming after the cleaning company. That cleaning company, was that like, you know, like a crew that went in that cleaned all this stuff, or was it like, hey, do you want to buy this bleach? It's really good.
I wish it was the latter. That would be much easier. No, it was the crews going in and cleaning. So yeah, it's a rather random step, but I think, you know, fundamentally back then I wanted to start a business to support. It started off, I wanted to start a business to support my own running. You know, that became secondary, and then the business became kind of primary. So it kind of, that was something I fell into and just developed very quickly. And then, you know, I since I've been a little kid, I've been interested in the sports industry. I always knew I'd end up in the sports industry. My dream, like many children, was to work for Nike. You know, that was always my dream as a youngster. And I think I fell into the sport of CrossFit very, very early on. You know, very soon after my running career finished. I've been doing CrossFit a long time. You wouldn't be able to tell in the gym, but I have been doing it a long time. So I was in and around the sector for a few years, developing knowledge of the consumer and what they were wearing and where the gaps in the market were before I jumped into it. So it does seem like a bit of a random journey, but there was kind of some sense to it. And I think I kind of fell into a sector that I always knew I would be in, and that the CrossFit piece gave me the avenue to kind of do it. And then fundamentally running a cleaning company, taught me how to build a business from scratch and manage, you know, a fairly sizable amount of staff and things like that, which have stood us in reasonable stead through to now.
You mentioned there like the gap in the market, and I know that you do your own apparel, say more recently, but like initially it was to house like, you know, like Reebok, Nike, Under Armour, who like Puma, whoever. Why not start just from scratch, just like, right, we're going to make our own clothes? Like, why did you pick starting to, I guess, house these companies first? What was the thought process behind that?
The thought process then is really the same as now. So we want to be the biggest fitness retailer in the world. So we're still a multi-brand retailer at our core. And the reason we started that is because that's where I saw the opportunity. I saw like the likes that you mentioned, like Nike, Reebok, Noble had just started, and various other brands. They were dropping exclusive footwear SKUs for the fitness consumer, and the fitness consumer had never previously had a shoe apart from the Nano, but suddenly there was, you know, multiple brands emerging in the space, but they didn't really have a platform to sell to the consumer, especially not in the UK. And back then we were just UK focused. So I just thought, you know, there is a platform for this customer. I knew it had to be a physical retailer and a digital retailer at the same time because they like physical experiences. So we were always built around the core principle of being a multi-brand retailer with the best product for the training customer. The own brand, you know, it's kind of come from the fact that we've built a brand in WIT in our own right, and but you know, to be perfectly honest, we used to sell a hell of a lot of t-shirts saying WIT on them or whatever it takes. And a wise man at Gymshark once told me that all you really need to do to build a clothing brand is sell a shitload of t-shirts, which is basically what we did for 2 or 3 years. And off the back of that, it made perfect sense for us to, you know, add to our business through our own clothing brand. But it's definitely not a focus. It's more an additional brand in the collection, in the multi-brand collection, really.
Why did you think that it needed to be in person and online? Why not just online? Like, would it not be easier to just be just online?
Because then we're just like anyone else. Like, we're just a faceless retailer, and you know, we had the ability to work with the likes of Nike, one of the biggest brands in the world, but biggest sports brand in the world, only because we had physical experience. Now, if I'd gone and pitched to them in 2017, and said, we want to sell this Metcon product, we're going to sell it on this website, they'd be like, no, not interested. But we were pitching to them a concept where, you know, a retail store where the gym customer felt like they were walking into the gym and shopping at the same time. So it's an environment they're comfortable in. And I think, you know, we've extended that through our own site and through going to events, you know, CrossFit Games, Wadapalooza, SID. All these physical experiences are so key because they allow us to showcase product, but also athlete appearances and seminars and, you know, all these cool things that we know that the fitness customer buys into.
Yeah, it's actually remarkable, like, because I was at the games in 2019 as a spectator, not as a competitor. But it was the first time. So, like, Ireland doesn't have like anything really when it comes to like CrossFit kind of stuff. Like, we have great gyms, we have great communities, but we have no like hands-on experience. Do you know what I mean? And I remember being there and seeing the WIT store, and I was like, fucking hell, that is massive, like, and well placed and cool. It was the time, it was like beside that, kind of near that globe thing. Remember, it was like up in the grass kind of. But it was the first time I'd ever touched like a Noble shoe, an Innovate shoe. Like, I'd bought, I think in CrossFit up until then, for me anyway, everything was like a picture, and then you'd buy it and just hope for the best and be like, hopefully it doesn't feel shit when I have it on. Like, or like shorts, t-shirts, shoes, like Nanos, Metcons, everything was just like, you know, and they're not cheap. Like, it's like 140 quid or whatever for a pair of Nanos. And you're like, oh, hopefully they're not shit. Whereas like WIT, and I'm glad you said that was the purpose behind it, because like for me, that was my first experience of WIT, was like, oh, I can actually put on this shoe and be like, no, I don't like it, I'm not going to waste money on it, or like, oh yeah, it's perfect. So yeah, that's cool. And the gym then in is that like under the store?
Yeah, the gym is a really unique concept. I mean, it's brands in the past have done. I always use Sweaty Betty or Lululemon as examples. They've done retail and then they've kind of moved the fixtures to one side in the evening and done a yoga class, and they've called it a hybrid store fitness retail, but it's not, is it really? Whereas we have got a 5,000 square foot gym underneath the store, so we it could be retail and gym separate, but they kind of seamlessly merge, and we like to take that experience on the road as well. So that stand you mentioned at the games, behind it there was a gym space where we're running classes with the likes of all the athletes and seminar coaches. So it was really cool, and we like to take that on the road for the customer to train. Like fundamentally, there's nothing a fitness consumer likes to do more than train. So if they can shop and train at a
buy shoes and then train,
buy shoes and then train, perfect. So we cover both bases. So that the reason behind it was it was that, but also we had managed and we continue to manage to build a global community, a WIT community online, like some retailers, but I'd say better. But we're better to build a community than in your own physical space. And we do have a large membership base, whether they're past members or current members, and also like a huge volume of international drop-ins, especially CrossFit customers. So and they walk into the space and it's pretty spectacular. And then we build that loyalty through our customer service and the way our staff act and the way our coaches train. So we thought that was key to kind of building out that loyalty.
Yeah, and it's like it's remarkable what you've done because so like I really like people. Like I really like that's what draws me into a brand. Like say with Rad, it was like Ben drew me in and I liked him, and then I explored the brand a bit more and I was like, oh, this is actually cool. And like the same with like say Fitter or whatever. It's like I get to know Leon or Steve or whatever, and then I start looking at what the stuff is like. And it was kind of the opposite with WIT for me. My experience of WIT was kind of like the faceless story you were talking about for me from where I was starting out with it. But then it quickly changed where I was like seeing these people like as the kind of front of house like staff, I guess.
Yeah.
Like I was seeing more and more of Fraser, more and more of like say Sam, Holly, like Gus, all these people. And then I was starting to kind of, I guess unbeknownst to myself, become invested in those people and be like, oh, I like the stuff that they're doing or saying or whatever. I think more so over lockdown for me was a big I guess like period of warmth towards WIT, because I was like nobody had anything to do, so you were just like on social media, they were on social media and everything. And like when WIT started out, it was you and Sam started he started WIT, isn't that right?
That's right, yeah.
And then so he went to Noble, like UK or Europe or whatever. So when that happens, are you like is that like, oh, this is brilliant, I've got it to myself now and I can like it's streamlined to exactly the way I want it to be? Or are you like, oh shit, now I have to like start pulling, like I have to do 2 times the work that I was, like different kind of work, the work that I was doing?
I wouldn't say any of that really. I think we were kind of best friends who just when I had the idea for the business, I'd done the cleaning business alone and I found it very lonely. When I had the idea for WIT, me and Sam had worked together in running stores throughout our like younger years, so I thought who better to start it with than him. It's someone who understands like sports retail. We're best friends, so we went on that initial journey together, and it was amazing. It was an amazing journey. It came to a point in both our lives when the business got to a point where Sam saw his future elsewhere, and it was kind of a mutually agreeable. And actually, to the point that it was almost too cozy. To the point that obviously I'm very good friends with the owners and founders of Noble. It was kind of a triangular agreement between us that where better for Sam to go than into the Noble business, because they're such close partners to us. So it was strange at first, and I enjoyed going on that journey with him. But it was the right time, I think, as is with many businesses, for us to part ways. But when he did leave the business, it did leave me with a lot of workload. Obviously, whilst I'd always been the CEO, Sam he's very creative, so he's very strong on the marketing side of the business. So, for me to focus on that as chief brand officer, I wanted to bring someone else into the business to probably run the financial operational side better than I could as we grow into a global business. Hence going and looking for a CEO and someone like Matt.
Matt, is it? I guess we talked about pressure, and you said you hold yourself to a high standard. But like when it's the founder stepping aside to let you come into a role, and they're also still going to be there, and still, they're not like heading off to an island in the Bahamas somewhere. Like they're still going to be on site and like involved and stuff. Are you like? Does that change things for you? Is that a new experience having the former CEO still there and still involved?
No, I think I've a lot of the business I've been in are still founder led, and I think the beauty of having a founder in the business is no one better than the founder to help inspire and talk through the vision of the brand that was born out of that love for CrossFit. So I actually think it's a really good thing, and to be honest, Dan and I probably bounce off a lot of ideas because we think differently, and actually the sum of the parts is we get to a better place working together. And I think that has been seen with some of the things that we've done and some of the things that we've got coming up with some new brands. And I think look, I think I'm sure Dan will say something not dissimilar, but I think look, it's been a really good way of working. I think we've realized that almost what our core strengths are, and I think we play to those in how we go about every day. And I think look, we both come back to, I suppose, the one ideology of we both love the brand and we both love training and we both have a passion for the team. We're always in the space because look, like you said, is you need to be where the consumer is, and ultimately that's in our space because that's where we activate the brands, that's where we can get feedback from our members, and that's why we have new brands still wanting to work with us, because to the point Dan said earlier, no one with the authenticity that we do can replicate bringing community and brands all together in a nice seamless way, because otherwise we would just be, like I said, a toothless online business that is like anyone else that can do what we can't do really. And that's what I think sets us apart really, which is and why I joined, because I believe there's such a white space opportunity for this business. And with Dan and I partnering together, I have no doubts that we'll make it a continued success.
You mentioned brands there, and I know you had so one interesting thing, Dan, that you said on Khalipa's podcast was that when Nike launched the Metcon, you went to them and said, I want this shoe and I want whatever 1,000 pairs, and they were like, no, like you can't have 1,000 pairs, that's ridiculous. And the irony of that was not lost on me, having, I'd say 2 months ago, read Shoe Dog, where he was trying to buy shoes and they wouldn't give him enough credit or enough shoe. And I was like, come on, surely if a business will empathize with someone trying to do something, they'd be like, we'll give you as many as you want, we trust you. When you were starting out, was there a lot of that kind of stuff where like you had these kind of ideas that were like just out of reach because like I guess your ambition maybe gets ahead of your ability when like with boots on the ground and stuff?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best example. But interestingly, because when that happened, what I didn't add is that the account manager didn't even know what the shoe was. I was actually telling him what the shoe was, and it was in a catalogue, and he was having to find it in the catalogue. But there was a lot of examples of that. Like the guys at Noble launched their business at the East Coast Classic in the same month as we launched our business. And the only reason I had approached them is because I'd seen the East Coast Classic on Instagram and thought, oh, that looks a cool brand. So, when we reached out to them, they thought, who are these guys reach out to us? How do they know about us? And secondly, I think they questioned, one, our ability to represent their brand, but also the volumes that we were talking about. But sometimes you just got a gut feeling, like these days with Ben and Rad, that you're going to sell a lot of shoes. And usually my gut feeling in this sector has been right. And whilst a lot of times brands sometimes think, well, hang on a minute, can they do this? it is a bit like Shoe Dog. Like sometimes it's just a gut feeling and confidence in a product and a consumer that you just know a product's going to work. And usually we can convince the brands the same.
And is it always that way? Is it always that you see a brand and want that? Like, I guess there's some obvious ones, like Reebok is obvious, Nike is obvious, like they're obvious ones that you want to work with. But say like newer brands that are starting up, is it always the case that you identify ones that would work well? Or is it the case that like a company or a smaller company could approach WIT and say, oh, what do you think of this? Do you think that you could help us with, like, you know, housing it and shipping it and that kind of stuff? Like, is it always one way, or are there different ways that it can happen?
I mean, usually if there's a hot brand in the space, it'll be us approaching them, and I hope that's a compliment these days to the brand, because we get inundated with inquiries from brands. Yeah, I mean, our buying team, you know, get multiple emails per day for brands wanting to be on our platform, and you know, we need to be at WIT. We need to house the best of the best. So you know, we need product to, you know, live up to the consumer expectation with regards to, and if you look at CrossFit Fitness, the product has to stand up to, you know, the volume of fitness these consumers are doing. You know, we look at everything from sustainability, quality, you know, where the product's coming from, you know, can they hit our volumes and things like that. So the guys probably bat off a lot of inquiries all day, every day. Now, it's not to say that we reject every inquiry that comes in. There's some cool brands that do come in, and we want to encourage new brands into space, and we want to be that platform for new brands to reach a wider consumer. But generally, if we see something super hot, it'll be us kind of identifying it.
And when you say hot, do you mean like something that you guys see, like say the Noble thing, where you're like, oh, that looks cool? And I mean, you were obviously way off the mark on that. I mean, they just flopped and went nowhere. But like, is it like people talking about it? Is it that you see it and see that it looks good, or is it like general buzz about the brand that makes it desirable or something you want to work with?
It's a bit of everything. Like, so I think, like I said on Jason's podcast, like some brands like Rad or Noble, because they're from this community, they're built like from the community. These guys have been like me, you know, in the community for 10 years or more. They've developed a network of trust and friendship, just like you noticed those brands. If the product's good, you know it's going to work because these people understand the customer. It's when brands come in from outside that you think you can be a bit skeptical. So, you know, generally you just kind of, it's just a gut feeling. You just know it's going to work. And then there will be brands coming into the space. Like there's brands at the moment, like a good example would be LSKD. He may have seen. People think they've come from nowhere, but we've been speaking to them for many months about coming into this sector, because we know that the streetwear kind of skate surf look is hot. So, you know, then in that instance, we've said to them, you know, this is a sector that you could do some real volumes in. How can we help you with that? And it just so happens that, you know, since then, obviously they've been investing in athletes. Now they're more visible. They'll become a major brand in the sector. So we do a lot of work to try and, you know, identify the best of the best.
Yeah. It'd probably be the mark of a good podcast if they had, say, the founder of LSKD on recently, and if there was also talk of a sponsorship happening, like that would probably be the marker of like, that podcast is obviously very good. I can also identify hot brands. When speaking of identifying hot talent and you know, I guess marketability and that kind of stuff, you guys have announced athletes, like a spate of athletes over the last, like, say, 12 to 18 months. I guess the most notable, and probably like, and I don't mean this to, you know, sound offensive or anything, but the one I think that kind of shook the, I guess, ecosystem was like when Sarah Sigmundsdottir signed, and everyone's kind of like, what? Because obviously she's leaving, kind of similar, I guess, to Laura leaving Nike and going to Rad, and, you know, like Danielle leaving Nike and going to Rad, and then you got Sarah leaving Nike and going to WIT, and it just kind of came out of left field, where there seemed to be this maybe group of 3 companies that were like the top, like that was like the A star, that was the aim for athletes, was to work with one of these 3 big dogs. And then when you guys announced Sarah, like that has to be one of the early coups in the sport, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I think I go into why the athletes are choosing these other brands, but I think at the time I was speaking to our agent about other athletes actually. Well, he was approaching me about other athletes because we were starting to look at the space, and I just said there's only one athlete we want, and that's Sarah Sigmundsdottir. And he kind of laughed it off at first, and I was like, no, I'm serious about this because we were starting them with our own brand, but also like our brand partners, wanted to do stuff with athletes. So we thought that like Ben is now with Rad, we thought the athlete route was a way to go to get the business in front of as many eyes as possible. It's a challenging environment out there the past 2 years with regards to things like customer acquisition and reaching the customer online, and what better way to do it than through a high-profile athlete that transcends the sport of CrossFit into the wider female fitness customer. I think with Sarah, like, she's been unfortunate with injury, but the reason she moved to us is because she had more autonomy. Like, so we build product with her. So she genuinely has an input in those those cool designs you see on the t-shirts and the Icelandic kind of designs that we're doing on these limited edition tees. She has an input in that, and she wouldn't have had that at Nike. And a lot of brands and athletes see frustration with that because they want more autonomy, they want more flexibility, and they want to kind of be with a cooler, more up and coming brand. I think she opened the floodgates in a way, like you just alluded to, with other athletes and other brands just saw there was opportunities elsewhere.
Yeah, I think it's interesting as well though, because like obviously the easy thing to do is to chase. So like she's like the jewel in the crown, I guess, and the easy thing to do is to get obsessed with that and to think like who else is big, like who else could we convince. But like I think one of the things that I admire about WIT is that you haven't like done that. You haven't just gone for like, okay, who else are like perennial top fives. You've gone for like Lucy McGonigal, who's like, as far for the majority of the CrossFit population is like who, whereas the people who know her know how extraordinary she is and where she's inevitably headed. So it's similar, I suppose, to identifying Noble or whoever as a brand that's like, oh, they're going to be big. You're identifying athletes like her and James Sprague and other people who otherwise might get overlooked or might be getting like crumbs or whatever, are getting these opportunities and the support that like could slip by them without you guys. But also it's like the grassrootedness or whatever. Again, like people first, like you're picking people who I guess deserve it. I think that it should be mentioned as well.
Yeah, I think Sarah's like, it's a bit like our business. So like our business is built, the core customer for us is a CrossFit customer. So, they're the tip of the pyramid. But then everyone who does fitness seriously, whether it's Barry's, F45, Gymbox, whatever, the CrossFit customer is the pinnacle. Now, whether they say it or not, they're trying to do what the CrossFit athletes are doing. And with Sarah, she's our headline, she's our pinnacle athlete. But, it drips down to grassroots in that we want athletes to develop. We want to help Lucy McGonigal develop, Sophie Sharp, Emma Lawson, formerly James Sprague. We want to help them on their journey. And Sarah being that headline is super cool for them as well. And then we've got a wider portfolio of athletes and ambassadors in the community as well, who people may not have heard of, but we're supporting them on cool journeys, whether it's in London or other cities. And again, having Sarah as like the headliner for them is just so exciting. I think it's a good mix of both.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess the reason, like, you wouldn't come on and talk to me for no reason, and the reason you're coming on to talk to me is because there's a crowdfunding launch coming up. So right, Matt, will you just explain what crowdfunding is to me like I'm 5?
So I think best way to describe it is we were born out of the community. So when Dan started the brand, and therefore, again, we've gone through different rounds of raising investment to allow us to do all these really cool things. And we went and raised money through crowdfunding back in 2017, which allowed us to open our big experiential space in St. Paul's in the heart of London, which is what Dan alluded earlier. So crowdfunding simply is, it allows us to go and share with our community to get a piece of the brand. And actually what we do is we still effectively have to do a pitch deck. We still talk about why invest in WIT, but what we do is we basically go and give incentives and rewards of money can't buy experiences. So you're basically talking to a community that are very well versed and probably understand who WIT are, because ultimately we go and talk to our database and say, hey, we're raising money. Do you want to be part of that journey? And that's how we raised 1.3 million back in 2017. And again, you have a large number of investors that are investing normally between sort of 800 and 1,200 pounds. So you get a lot of them, but they buy into the concept of, we get some really good money can't buy experiences and gear that is limited edition, so you can't get it anywhere else. And also they get the chance to come on the journey of growth with us in the next few years towards a potential exit. So in a nutshell, that's it. Which is the community like us, the community want to shop with us, so why not give them the chance to also invest in us and hopefully have a great brand, but also help us deliver a really great business through to the exit that we're looking to do in the next few years.
Okay, now explain it to me like I'm 3. No, I'm joking. So you did this before, and I think so. I have to thank Leon from Fitter, because I messaged him when I found out that we were going to be having a chat. I messaged him and I was like, explain crowdfunding to me, and he sent me about 15 like 7 or 8 minute long voice notes back. So he was kind of saying that like Brewdog is probably the most famous example of someone utilizing crowdfunding to, success or whatever. So essentially, like, I buy, like, for my money, I get these the experiences that you're talking about, or I might get like, like a t-shirt or a pair of lifters or whatever, I don't know, whatever is happening. But what do I get? Like, say, what's the difference between doing this, like me buying that, and say you guys going on the stock exchange and me buying a stock or a share or whatever through that? Like, what's the fundamental difference there?
Well, we're still a private company, so look, you become a shareholder. So everyone that invests is a shareholder, whether it's Brewdog, Monzo, or any of the Pure Sports have just done it as well, and everyone is an equity shareholder in the business. So that's part one. I think part two is, because we're doing it privately, this is the only way outside of going onto the stock exchange that people get an opportunity to invest in brands like us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to extend that to the community. And then I think just the point on all of these is, you're talking to, again, so what happens with crowdfunding is you basically talk to your audience. So we're the ones that actually do the heavy lifting, and we're the ones that market it. We're the ones that, talk to you and others, and we talk about the business and the brand. And ultimately it's us that bring that heat, bring that traffic, and get people to invest, because they're buying into the founders, they're buying into the management team, they're buying into our vision and what we want to do within the space, and all the things that Dan said. We're just effectively packaging it and then going out and saying, look, we built this really strong brand and business. This is where we want to do. This is what we're going to invest in to do more of the things that we've done so far. Bring new brands onto site. Look at developing more WIT House, London in different geographies, Paris, Berlin, and Ireland,
cool.
And obviously also doing more activations and events, because ultimately we want to blend that physical and virtual experience as we've been doing, but take it on the road. And that's what we did with the WIT on tour at the CrossFit Games as well. So all those things that we've started to do, we just want to do more of them. And as opposed to go out to other institutions that might not get the space and might not have the passion that we do, then we might as well go to the community that have that passion for us, know us, love us, and therefore it's an easy investment decision, because also they get some really cool gear behind this, as well as own a piece of the brand that they already know in itself. So that's probably why we do community funding. It worked back in 2017 really, really well. We've now gone on, developed the brand and the business in the last 5 years, and we feel that the time is right to go back out to the community, because we're at a really good stage of growth.
And when you're doing this, do you have to So say obviously like when Sarah came on, that was like, you know, a big surprise reveal, and it was like, you know, alluded to and teased and then released or whatever. But like when you're doing this and you're going to the community saying, hey guys, you want to invest? And they're like, okay, well, what are you doing for the next 5 years? Are you like, well, what if they don't invest and we're telling them everything that we're going to do and we're kind of like pulling the curtain back too far? Like, is there any kind of angst around that?
Dan, I don't know about you, but I think, mean, go on, you go.
There's no angst about it. Like, as Matt said, like basically fundamentally, again, the journey's still the same. We want to be like it was 5 years ago. We want to be the biggest retailer for the fitness customer in the world. To do that, we need to grow our digital and physical ecosystem. We think we're at the point where we can supercharge that and go a lot faster than we are going. And we want investors who understand the space and the potential, but also who really have a passion for the business in the sector. So we and you know, as part of the process, actually, you know, Matt this time round rather than me, but there'll be a lot of phone calls with potential investors, telling them what we'll be doing in the next 5 years. We're totally transparent about that, and I think it's important that we are transparent, because that's what gets people excited about the potential journey. Because, you know, yes, they're getting all these rewards, but also they're getting hopefully a cash return in a couple of years' time, which is a lot greater than they're putting into the business. So it's an exciting journey for them to come on.
Okay, so Matt, do you want to role play a call where I pretend I'm an investor and you pitch to me? How do I, if I want to get involved in this, what do I do? Like, how do I, is there going to be like a link? Is there going to be like an email? Is there going to be like how do I know that it's happening, or how to do it? Like,
yeah, so a bit like you were saying with Sarah and teasing. So we'll go out, and it's called pre-registration. So we'll go out using our database through social, all of our ambassadors to talk about, hey guys, it's coming, get the chance to participate in the investment round, and we'll do that for a couple of weeks. So we'll get everyone really excited, as you would do, you know, a bit like we do when we bring a Metcon. We get people into effectively a funnel to say, hey, I'm really interested in, and we you know, generate some noise, and then suddenly we go, you know, live at 7 o'clock in the morning. Here you go. They get effectively, they get if they're lucky, they will get a chance to buy a pair. It's like when we've stopped Rad and others, and with the Sarah, you know, tortie we did. I mean, literally we sold out in, you know, an hour, which is really good, and hence we try and get as many people really excited about this. And then when we go to what's called a private launch, we've literally just gone, we're now live, so that'll be in the next two to 3 weeks. And then at that point they will say, hey, you've done a really good job keeping me interested, really engaged. And then we say, look, as of this date, this is when you can start to actually invest. And hopefully a large number who've said they're really interested in investing will go onto the crowdfunding platform and basically fill in their bank details and transfer the money to the crowdfunding platform, that we then ultimately at the end of that process get that cash to do all the things we want to do with the proceeds.
So did you say between 800 and 1200? Is that what you said?
Yeah, we'll have a number of investors. It could be, you know, other brands could be even higher. You know, if you look at Finisterre, they had over 3,600 different people that invested. So, you know, it's not limited to, but, you know, it will be a lot of individuals. You know, some with small amounts, because again, that's the other beauty of community and crowdfunding, is you can, you know, invest as little as £100, or you could invest, you know, multiple thousands of pounds. So obviously,
yeah, let's speak to your audience here. Let's stick to the lower level. You're talking,
but, you know, again, for £100, you know, someone can come in and, you know, they'll get some rewards, and they'll be able to, you know, for that, even that small amount of money. And that's where we were last time. Again, it's not about the absolute value of investment. It's just, look, if you really want to believe in the business and the brand, then look, this is probably the simplest and easiest way for you to invest in a company like ours at the stage of growth we're in.
And it's scaled, I assume, is it? So if I invest 100, I get X. If I invest 1,000, I get X, Y, Z, maybe a bit of A as well, or whatever.
Exactly. So I think, look, we incentivize people. So the more you invest, you get some really cool stuff. So at the top end, you if you're really into it and you've got some money that you want to bring in, then we do some sort of VIP rewards where you get the chance to go and spend, some time training with Sarah and get, the chance to get potential VIP trip to the CrossFit Games next year. So these are some of the things, again, coming back to what Dan said. If you're really passionate in the space, Sarah, you want to get the chance to train with her, you really want to get to the games, never had the chance, this is the time that you can do that.
So £100 you get a t-shirt, £110 you get VIP trip to the games. And the sky's the limit from there.
Exactly.
I just as you're talking, I'm like,
yeah, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, as you're talking, I'm like, if someone has enough money to buy shares that would give them a VIP trip to the games, they could have fucking gone to the games by now if they just were smart about it. No, but I understand what you're saying. It's actually cool. Like, so it's something that I kind of like. Crowdfunding is something that I've seen, and like I am so shit with money, so like I have no interest in like any of this kind of stuff. But it's something that I suppose I was aware of on my periphery, but I never really had an understanding of it. So like, I guess the benefit of it is you're preaching to the converted, like where you've spent whatever, like 5-6 years building a community who believe in what you're doing, and who, like I was saying, in the position I was in, started recognizing people and started like buying into the humans behind the brand and not just the brand, and wanted, like, willing it to succeed and willing it to do well and stuff. And then they also know what CrossFit is, so they're not going to be like, if you walk into an investment firm, they'd be rolling their eyes, being like, "Oh, fucking CrossFit!" Like, whereas we're like, "Oh, this is the best thing ever. Obviously, I'm going to invest in it." So, like, we're already converted in that kind of way as well, where we know the brand and we know the space that it's in. The experiences then. So, if someone wants to train with Sarah, I mean, that's pretty incredible. Go to the games, like ridiculously good. Is there like, are you doing like apparel then? Are you doing like I own a piece of Dan t-shirt or something like that?
Yeah, we're going to do some really cool graphics and tees that you get again, and whether it's got that from Dan, not too
maybe
sure.
Gus, maybe we'll put Gus's face on it.
But that's the bit. I think we're definitely, again, we've got definitely something really cool planned for those that invest, and that some of that will be the surprise and delight of things that they didn't expect. Some of it's all built out, but look, I think there'll be some things that people will be shocked in a really good way, that they'll get something that no one else has. And that will be something that, again, probably is something exclusive that people can shout about, and their friends will hate them because they would wish that they had that, and they'll get that FOMO, because that's one thing we see is there's definitely a FOMO in this industry. If your mate's got something, then everyone else wants it. And the problem is with limited edition, as you know, is the problem is everyone has what the other person doesn't. And it's a very big competition, I think, sometimes on who's got the best dress kit in even in our gym. So I think everyone's got the latest, greatest. And then, to be honest, that's where we all talk about, how does it feel? And by design, then that's where we get really good reviews, because we get our team and ourselves to talk authentically about the product, and we go, this is good, this isn't good, and this is why this product's better. So we don't really, as we're multi-brand and we're agnostic, we can give very honest feedback, good and bad, on anything that we have, because ultimately that's why people trust us, because they know that we'll be very truthful in the feedback we give. Yeah,
it is remarkable. It's like I get it sometimes where someone will message me about Rad and they'll say like, "Oh, are they good?" Like, and I'm like, I'm trying to explain and also qualify that I'm not just saying it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, obviously I'm biased. But that's not why I'm saying. Do you know what I mean? Whereas you guys are in a unique position where you're like, no, we're not biased. We sell it all, so we can say whatever we want about whatever it is. Like, so it is a unique position that you're in. You mentioned, and I suppose I mentioned it a good bit as well, about the people behind the brand. And like, I guess there's obviously a period of transition happening where, Dan, you're moving into a different role, and Matt is stepping into the role that you're vacating, I guess, and then bringing like all this like wealth of experience that you've talked about and everything. But there's also other roles where people have moved, like, so, we mentioned Rad, and Holly has gone to Rad, and she was a key component of WIT for a while, like for a good while. And you got Fraser has gone to ROM or Pliability or that Romwad, and Sam is off and he's doing his own thing as well, and he's still in the space and with different stuff. And like, I know you're still friends with them. I've seen like pictures of you guys at like weddings and birthdays and all that kind of stuff. Is it hard, like, allowing, obviously I suppose you can't really stop them, but is it hard allowing people who are like, yeah, okay, I think I'm going to go and do something else, where you're like, oh no, like you're integral to what I'm doing here and you've been really good and I don't want to lose you? Like, is it difficult, that kind of side of it, like where, you know, employees become friends and then if they move on?
I'd say professionally it's not difficult. So I think I always said to all of those people you mentioned, and anyone who comes into business as a graduate, particularly because all of those people you mentioned were just graduates when they came into the business or very early in their career. I said, if we can give them the platform to evolve professionally with WIT or somewhere else, then we've done our job correctly. So, you know, it's not rare for people to leave businesses after 3 and 4 years. I think the amazing thing that's happened to those guys is we've been on this amazing fast track journey with WIT. You know, when we've gone from kind of a startup to, you know, multi-million-pound global business. It's given them the platform to develop a skill set they wouldn't have got elsewhere, and it's given them a platform to, you know, evolve professionally. And sometimes that'll be elsewhere. You know, some of them I'm friends with, so like, I guess personally it's difficult. You know, I mean, Fraser was my drinking partner on a Thursday night, so that's one thing that's missing now. But you know, professionally, it's not a major issue for us, and you know, a lot of them are still actually working with the business in some way or another. You know, you mentioned the likes of Sam and stuff like that. So, you know, we were always going to evolve, and what we've done recently is we've added a amazing leadership team around me, you know, Matt and other people that can execute at a very high level and take us through to become a truly global business and potentially to an exit. And then we've also, you know, got some, you know, brilliant young graduates again, and it's almost started that evolution in junior and mid management again, which is quite exciting. You know, they're now excited about the journey we're on. So, and I think it's a good thing that we're still friends with them. I think that speaks volumes for us and them. So I think it's all fairly positive.
Yeah. So what does your role entail then, Chief Brand Officer? So are you basically getting to do the talent identification and relationship building side of what you were doing, but just exclusively doing that now? Is that the idea?
Yeah, so actually it was more Sam's role, like the relationship building piece when he was in business, because I was, you know, for 5 years I was literally doing everything as CEO. So what we've hired 3 or 4 people for now, I was doing myself. So it really allows me to get back into the community myself, like whether that's training in gyms, building relationships with athletes and new brand partners, connecting with key investors. It allows me to do that. And then also, you know, it's really just almost a brand custodian role. So there's a lot of new people in the business, you know, from Matt to our chief marketing officer to our operations director, that they'll say themselves they don't understand this sector of the market as well as I do. So, you know, there may be things that I see about to go out on our social or an event that's being discussed or an athlete's being discussed that I won't agree with. So, yeah, and I will say I won't agree with them. But on the flip side, they'll bring ideas into the business that I simply wouldn't have thought about because, you know, maybe my mind, there's too much tunnel vision. So, which is a really nice kind of thing to see. So, it kind of allows me to evolve definitely in the role. You know, Matt and the other members of the leadership team have got strengths where I haven't, but also it frees up my time to kind of do what I'm best at and build those relationships.
Obviously, Matt, you don't want to get yourself sacked by slagging him off too much. But when you took over the role, were you, because obviously you've come from like a string of different companies that were fairly well established, that were around for like, some of them were around for decades, and there was a really clear structure in place and everything. Whereas this is like, I guess WIT, it was like founded relatively recently compared to those companies, and was, you know, Dan, I guess from hearing him speak anyway, a lot of it sounded like learning on the job and using learnings from learning on another job to make something out of it and to, you know, to plan ahead and to try and execute those plans. When you come in, are you like, oh man, like where's the system, or was there a lot of that kind of stuff, or were you surprised at how streamlined everything was and how much sense it made?
No, I mean, so whilst I might have been in large organizations, I've always been in some of the smaller brands within those. So again, when I was at Pent, I was at Box Fresh, which was a really cool street brand out of Shoreditch, and we had 25 people. Most recently, I was I was an investor and an advisor, so working in a startup called Nutrigenetics in effectively the nutrition space, and that was 6 of us, and a bit like Dan, did everything. So know how Shopify works. So again, actually coming in, there's a lot, again, not necessarily on the scale of Dan, but actually I know how to do a lot of stuff within, helping a business of our size and smaller to run. So to be honest, the transition was relatively easy because there was a lot of stuff that I was doing hands-on roles anyway. And actually, to be honest, it's now about not just orchestrating the musical instruments, but also understanding how to play them, so I can actually understand the questions to ask some of the new people coming in. And then actually, the beauty of having Dan here as founder is I can probably ask him and just bounce ideas off him and say, look, here's what I'm thinking, and then together we'll come up with a really sensible answer that he'll agree with. And to Dan's point, look, in really strong teams, we're not always going to agree, and Dan and I have different views on some things, but actually what we do is we talk them through. Dan will have his view, I'll have mine, and ultimately we get to the best state for the company, which is really good. And as I said, I think, like I said, we've got a yin and a yang, which again, when we add us together, we're a really formidable team and duo.
Yeah, I really like that musical instrument analogy. That was very good. I'm very impressed with that. That's highlighted the interview so far. When you talk about your plans, then, so are you guys going to Wadapalooza?
Yeah, so we, again, with the event strategy is super important to us, like Matt alluded to earlier, and I did, the physical experiences are key, and we want to take kind of what we do in London to events, whether that's Wadapalooza, whether it's European events, whether it's our own events, you might see next year to some extent. But Wadapalooza, it's likely we'll be doing something. There's some intricacy there next year with a new headline sponsor, which may mean we don't do what we usually do, but we work with them anyway as a partner. So we'll be there in some format, yeah.
And then say 2023, and you can keep shooting off into the future as long as you want when you start answering this. But like, what can people expect? So say if I'm sitting in my little pitch meeting, or if I'm on a loudspeaker with Matt and he's like doing the hard sell, like what are the highlights? What are some of the things that I can look out for WIT doing in the next, say, 2 or 3 years?
I mean, we want to reach the fitness customer everywhere in the world, really, in the next 3 to 5 years. In the short term, that's very much a focus on the UK and Europe. There's an enormous amount of potential for our business specifically in Ireland, Germany, France, and Benelux, like really close to home, where we've got a lot of loyal customers, but we haven't been servicing them as well as we should do. So, there's a physical and digital strategy in those countries that we're very much focusing on in 2023 and 2024. We've got some exciting opportunities in the Middle East and South America. I'm going to
be totally selfish now. So when you talk about
you're going to say Ireland. You're going to say
Ireland. When you talk about a physical presence in Ireland, do you mean like a distribution center or like a shop?
I mean, to your point earlier, we can't reveal all, but on the podcast now. But in all seriousness, we're looking at doing some things in Ireland now. To be totally transparent, these things in all those regions there'll probably be some testing to them. How we enter the market. So you're not going to see a WIT House London straight away in Dublin, but you may see a dumbed down version of that for a temporary period of time. And other key cities like Paris and Berlin, we're looking at doing similar. So, this funding round is very much about that.
Has it made it harder? Has like Brexit and stuff put speed bumps there? Like, I'm assuming you were planning this for a while. So then after Brexit, did you have to kind of restart again and revisit everything? Yeah.
So it's actually part of the reason this is a strategy, because pre-Brexit, our European business was growing, really, really nicely on a digital perspective. Since then, it's still grown, but it hasn't grown at the pace it had prior to Brexit. And we did have plans. Yeah, the plans were always kind of Paris, Berlin, maybe not Dublin originally, but like we hit our Irish customer base is amazing. It's super loyal. So that's why that's very much on our radar now. So it's the same strategy as kind of a couple of years ago. But as you just alluded to, there's been some speed bumps in the world with regards to expanding digital business. So potentially it's something we put off until now.
Yeah, Brexit, COVID, and that fucking ship, that freighter ship that just ruined everything for like 12 months.
Canal wasn't here.
Okay, and then what about athletes then? Can we expect more of the same? Like, can we expect more grassroots kind of like supporting those kind of athletes? Is there any more jewels being added to the crown? Any more like tip of the pyramid, tip of the spear type people?
I think in the short term, that you'll see a lot of grassroots stuff. Whether it's athletes or the business in general, we want to encourage as many people as possible to train into training and fitness. So our mission is to change lives through training, and that is a true mission. If that's through supporting young athletes into the sport or into their sport, if that's through getting people into gyms who wouldn't otherwise be able to access them, whether it's financial, disability, lack of accessibility, we want to help those people on the journey. So we're all about grassroots community. And from an athlete specific perspective, you'll see a lot of grassroots stuff, a lot of Lucy's, people really trying to help them on the first stage of their journey. You might see athletes from other sports in a similar vein. Again, probably more grassroots stuff. And as we evolve, I'm sure that will evolve at the same time.
That's cool. You mentioned a WIT event. Do you mean like a competition?
No, I wouldn't see it as traditional competition. But what we want to do is just going back to my last point. It's like we want to bring as many people as possible into our ecosystem and encourage as many people as possible into the training and fitness sector. We work with so many amazing brand partners, amazing athletes, and amazing event partners. Whether it's CrossFit or whether it's functional fitness, High Rocks, Turf Games, the likes of those guys. We think there's an opportunity to bring all of those things I just mentioned into one experience. So it wouldn't be your traditional competition.
Like a festival of fitness kind of thing, like a smorgasbord of fitness.
Yeah. I'd say that. It's like a festival of fitness with a slight edge. It's much more of an edge than out there at the moment.
Okay, yeah, I like it. You can use smorgasbord if you want. I don't mind. Okay, so we'll finish with a quick fire. So they're mainly either or, I think. So I guess founders first, I suppose. So Dan, you can answer each of them first, and then Matt, you can chime in after. So dumbbell or barbell?
Dumbbell.
Matt?
Dumbbell.
Thruster or burpee?
Thruster.
Burpee.
Oh God, look at this. There's cracks appearing already. Bike or ski?
Bike, 100%.
Yeah, bike.
Run or row?
Run.
Row.
Yeah, I think we all saw that one coming down. Strength or cardio?
Cardio.
Yeah, cardio. Your strength, exactly. Cardio.
Dream athlete to sign for WIT?
I've got Sarah Sigma's daughter.
Yeah, I think Sarah's a dream. Just having met her and just got to know her, yeah, she's a dream. I've worked with a lot of athletes when I was at Speedo and everything else, and I think really strong athletes, but not always great personalities and people. And actually, she's everything that you'd want. She's up for doing things. She's really sociable. She gets engaged. That's the bit I think always about CrossFit. I've been so amazed that just from training in our gym, just how friendly people are. You go to another gym, I used to go to some of these weightlifting gyms, and to be honest, people just had the headphones on and never talk. But actually, you get everyone together and people fist pumping at the end and saying well done, regardless of if you're an elite athlete or you're just starting a training journey in CrossFit, the beauty is, you know everyone, and everyone will just encourage you, and that's what you see from, even the elite athletes in this sport. I think just the community does live and breathe, and now I'm in it, I can see what people say, and that's something I'm really attracted to. So they're all most of them we work with the dreams, and really keen, like that can-do attitude, and just saying, hey, what can I do to help you, which is fantastic.
I think the thing about Sarah that struck me, so when she signed, I was like, oh yeah, like famous, big personality, like that's gonna sell, like she's gonna sell stuff, like she'd sell, whiteboard cleaners, like she'd sell anything. But like it showed, I think that particular partnership showed how much of a shit she gives, like the fact that she was like essentially made like documentaries about designing clothes, like whereas most other athletes would be like, yeah, whatever, just put my name on it. Like she's like, no, like I have a folder. It's like she's like flicking through stuff. So I think it definitely showed a side of both, like the brand and her, I think. That partnership, which is really good. Well, look, thank you for coming on. Best of luck with your crowdfunding and your expansions and your endeavors over the next few years. I look forward to queuing up outside the Dublin store when it opens and trying to get stuff. I think it's great. I think what you've built, it's been really nice to meet you, Matt, and I wish you every success in the role. But like Dan, I think what you've built with WIT is like, it's absolutely incredible. I think, the easy thing to do would be to have just made t-shirts and just be like, yeah, we make t-shirts, or the easy next step would be, we're an online store, because it cuts our costs and it cuts, streamlines everything, more profitable, it's easier. But like to make a gym, to make a community, and you guys talked about that FOMO, like you've had those WIT nights in London that I haven't been able to go to, and I fucking hate not going to them. And you've had like people like Mickey Smith doing workshops there, like JST having training days there, like you've managed to kind of spider web into all these different like factions of the community, which is remarkable to see. And I think the fact that I know so many of the employees and former employees speaks volumes of the company, that it's not just a nameless, faceless crew, that it's actually people that you give a shit about and want to succeed. So best of luck with everything, and I hope it all works out.
Yeah,
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.